Hello, my name's Rob Swinnock. This short video is really in two parts. One, it provides you with an awareness as to what a typical assignment looks like and talks you through the layout of that assignment. And secondly, it gives you some idea in terms of where you can get help and also how do we actually grade and assess your work. Hello, I'm going to sort of introduce to you how we present a piece of work or an assignment to students. We tend to at UCB use a standard template. The standard template has a standard sort of layout to it. And what I'm going to do is then sort of explain to you sort of what that standard layout sort of actually is. The first part of an assignment brief will identify key details to do with the assignment. It will identify what program that assignment is for. It will indicate which module that relates to, the module code that relates to. Now the module code you will also be able to see on your timetable, and that will typically be shown as a 3-digit or a 4-digit number. The assignment title, so what the assignment is actually about. The level, now the level will depend what year of study you're at. If you've just started at UCB, that typically would be a level 4. If you're in your second year, or you've just returned back from placement, that may be level 5. And a final year honours degree student would be level 6. And if there aren't any students watching the video that are master's programme students, those would be level 7. The weighting gives you an idea as to the level of importance that assignment will have on your overall module score. So that might be expressed as a percentage. Listed will also be the lecturers. Now the lecturer name identified would either be the lecturer that would be your key contact sort of in class, or it could be the module leader that is looking after that module across a range of different programs. The handout date would be when is the assignment launched. The due date is when that work may be submitted, and that will be a deadline, and the deadline is either typically 4 o'clock on a stated day, or it would be 7 o'clock in the evening if you're a part-time student. The feedback post date is 25 working days after you have submitted your work, and that is when the lecturer has to return that work to you at the very latest in order for you to get the feedback. But typically a lot of lecturers actually return that work within that time period. The assignment format will tell you, is this an essay? Is this a report? Is this individual? The assignment length might give you an indication as to how many words you're expected to write. Is it 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 words? The submission format will sort of give you an indication as to how should you submit your work. Some work has to be submitted electronically, some work might be in a hard copy format that would be submitted to the resource centre. So this assignment brief will also tell you how do you do that and what to do. Up in the top corner you'll see a QR code, and that QR code is really a quick guide to referencing. Referencing is very important when you come to doing your work because it helps to acknowledge the research that you've actually sort of done. So that is a sort of a nice, easy, quick guide on how to sort of basically reference your work. Listed underneath that box, you'll see the assignment remit, and that is the question you need to address. Okay, so typically it might well be a question that asks you to discuss an issue. If you're in your final year or you're a level 5 student, it could well be that it's asking you to critically evaluate a particular issue. The module learning outcomes are really built into the assignment itself. So they're not a separate question, they're actually built into the assignment, and by undertaking the assignment and doing that thoroughly, you should therefore achieve the module learning outcomes. And these actually come from the actual specification that is set out as to what students have to achieve. At the bottom of the screen, you've got the grading criteria. The grading criteria are the indicators that we use to assess your work, and there is a direct link through here to all the different sort of levels, to level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7. Okay? Those grading criteria actually state what are we actually sort of looking for in the work, what characteristics are we looking for in the work, and we want to try and demystify what you need to do to get a good mark. So typically that might make reference to the clarity, the structure. It might give an indication as to the research that you've undertaken, but also maybe how you've applied models and how you've used examples effectively to support what you're saying. There are also a few other statements that you do need to be aware of. One is about plagiarism. Now, plagiarism, if you're not aware, is using unattributed material that you have perhaps sourced from somewhere else. It's really important that you acknowledge the information that you've used and you use appropriate referencing. There is support from the Academic Skills Centre on how to reference. As I said earlier, there's also a QR code link on the front page of the assessment that also gives you a quick guide on how to acknowledge and reference your work. It is to your benefit that you reference your work, because then your lecturer can reward you for your research efforts. But if you don't, unfortunately, that could be seen as being using unattributed information, which in academic terms can be quite serious. So if you're not quite sure sort of what that means, we've provided a link there to the code of practice that relates to that. Now, during your studies, sometimes things might not go well. Perhaps you're sick, perhaps there's been sort of an issue with your family. If that is affecting your performance, then you may need to apply for what's called extenuating circumstances. There is a direct link to the portal, and that will take you through step by step what you need to do. Any extenuating circumstances need evidence to support them. So if you've been sick and you've had to see a doctor, you will need a doctor's note to indicate sort of the time period that has affected you. So that's very important to sort of deal with. If there are genuine circumstances, it is evidence, there is evidence that's required, and you will need to take that through to the registry, which is based on the 6th floor. The cut-off date for late work, we set a 10 working day cut-off date for late work. After 10 days, that work will no longer be marked. Okay? If there are extenuating circumstances, go through the normal extenuating circumstances process. And if the circumstances are upheld and you genuinely did have issues that exceeded the 10 days, that will be dealt with by a separate panel at an exam board, and they may decide as to whether you get a resit or not. However, here, if let's say there was a minor issue or something has occurred, then you have up to 10 working days to submit that work. Otherwise, it won't be marked. The assignment brief will indicate how do you submit your work. If your work has to be submitted using a hard copy, then you need to use the ATS submission code. And that code is a code that will be entered by your lecturer, and you would go onto the portal, select ATS, and you can enter that code to download what's called a frontispiece. A frontispiece is a cover sheet that has your name printed on it, and has a barcode on it, so when you hand in your work downstairs, the barcode is scanned. It will then register on your student portal area. that you've submitted the work. That work will be scanned, received. When the lecturer picks it up, you will be able to also see when they picked it up and when the lecturer's finished marking it and they've returned it, so you can pick up the work to read the feedback. It will tell you when you can pick it up as well. So the ATS system is for hard copy submission work. For electronic submission work, there is separate guidance that is provided. So if you follow the link, there's a step-by-step guide on how to submit your work electronically using Turnitin. What I would advise is if you're not sure about whether you've referenced your work correctly, within Turnitin there is a draft facility, and you can submit work to the draft facility to self-check your work to make sure you haven't left out a reference that you should have maybe acknowledged inadvertently. But when you submit your work as a final, okay, that then is the final time that sort of you're saying that this work is now ready and can therefore sort of be made available for the lecturer to mark. After the 25 working days, that work will receive feedback and that work will be released back to you to be able to view. So I hope this short video has been of assistance. There is further sort of assistant guidance in some of the QR codes that are listed at the bottom of your assignment that will indicate where you can get extra help. On the 5th floor in the library, in the upstairs area, there's the Academic Skills Centre, where there's a lot of available handout information on how to go about structuring your work. So please do make full use out of the support mechanisms that exist on site to make sure that you're successful with your work. I hope this video has given you an insight as to how we sort of present work to you and the way in which we sort of assess your work. There are sort of practical links for you to help you be successful with your work. There's guidance on the assignment brief on how to reference your work properly. It will give you a full sort of indication as to what we expect from the piece of work. Features perhaps to do with how you can be successful with your work that are built into the assignment remit and the question that is set. But also, if you're not sure how to tackle a piece of work, where you can get extra help. So I hope this sort of short video has just given you sort of a little bit of a flavour and an insight. By all means, I mean, if you see me in the corridor and you've got sort of further sort of questions that you want to ask, then feel free just to stop and ask me. Thank you.